Good evening, guys, and welcome to Trollspeilet again. We have prepared for you today a very good, I think, lesson with our goal is to show you what rhythm and diagonality means, how it works, how it looks, how it does not look, and how you can show it throughout a lesson. You can see how the rhythm and the diagonality in a horse changes. We will do that by showing some pictures and also by showing a video later on in the evening. I thought that I would allow my wife today to tell you guys what rhythm and diagonality means, and then I'm gonna skewer her with horrible questions, obviously, as is my habit, and then hopefully we will go on to show good pictures and stuff as we move on through the lesson.
And these things are not that easy to explain. It's we need some pictures. We need to take our time to explain. And if we do, I think it's easier to understand what we do in order to help the horse find its own rhythm. And also when the horse finds its rhythm, it will also find its looseness. Like it's because yes, because if the horse is relaxed in its movement, it's easier for the horse to find its rhythm. And rhythm is a strange thing because every horse has its own sort of beat, rhythm. It's
what do you call one of those? A metronome, is it? No.
Yeah. That's a good.
When you move the weight up or down that thing, if you move it down, the arm becomes shorter and it ticks faster.
Yeah, and that is
and
a very good.
If you move it up, it becomes slower.
Yeah, but I usually say if you try to move your arm quickly, it's difficult. But if you do like this, it's very easy to move it.
So a shorter lever is easier to move quickly.
Yeah, it's just like a clock, you know, the old grandfather clocks with the long pendulum. They're moving like slowly.
Yep.
And if the clock is a little too slow, you just adjust it a little, so that it goes a little faster.
Yeah.
So, and a big horse needs to move its legs like slower.
So
And
at least the rhythm looks slower, even if the hoof at the tip might move just as fast or faster.
Yeah, it needs
it's an
to
interesting.
Move. Yeah, and you often see a big horse that moves like a pony. Everyone says like, this horse moves
choppy pony movement.
It's choppy movement. Yeah.
Yep.
And also we can see that the rhythm, we're talking about the beat of the footfalls, how the walk should be a 4 beat and the trot should be a 2 beat, and the canter is a 3 beat, and everyone knows those things. But what we're talking about is finding the rhythm of the horse that we've got to work with right now. Because it might be that it's a little choppy because there are stiff parts of the body of the horse. For instance, if the shoulders are too tight, it's difficult for the horse to move correctly with its hindquarters, because the front and the hind legs need to move in rhythm with each other.
Yeah, and then if you're stiff or tense in one piece, that'll be it'll be a shorter lever somehow.
Yeah.
Than the free swinging lever.
Yeah, so if we're working with the hind legs, so the hind legs should really push off, because we don't want to make an extension, or we want to make a collect the horse. And if the horse is too stiff in the shoulders, it's impossible for the horse to move forwards because and sort of let the hindquarters do the job.
Yeah.
Because
it's
impossible to move the shoulder.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and I often say that sometimes a horse with stiff shoulders look like the front legs are coming out of the same hole.
Yeah, if you look at it from the side.
Yes.
Yeah.
So and all these things are important in order to get the horse to relax, because we need a relaxed horse to be able to do like anything.
Yeah, or it won't show a clear or good beat and rhythm without being relaxed. And in order to be relaxed, it needs to have
a clear rhythm.
Right. So, but we've been talking about both beat and rhythm. Should we elaborate on whatever one is and the other is?
Yeah.
And the way I look at it, the beat is like at the walk, you have a 4 beat. So the idea is that the 4 legs should hit the ground with the same time interval between all 4 legs, and the sequence keeps going. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and it just keeps going in that same rhythm all the time. And to my mind, the same beat all the time. And to my mind, rhythm would be something like, instead of 1, 2, 3, 4, it goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. So it's the same sequencing and the same time in between, but different accentuation of the different hooves, sort of.
And the extreme of that is if the horse is lame.
Yes.
It's a
You get 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah.
1, 2, and
so I always like to extrapolate when you you sort of look into a problem or a question, and then you think, okay, what is the extreme of this? And then you can see that if the horse is lame, the rhythm is very sort of lopsided. So you want the rhythm to be balanced, and the way we are going to show that we're doing it, there are many ways to do this, but what we're going to show today is the diagonality of the horse.
So what you're going to use diagonality to produce a rhythm, or a clear rhythm, or a clear beat, or both?
Yeah, both, because you know the I am not very good at distinguishing between those two terms, because I'm using
they are extremely interlinked.
Yes, I'm using them a little as I
haphazardly, slightly.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. So if you guys become frustrated or anything like that by our use of beat sometimes when we should have used rhythm, or rhythm when we should have used beat, it's all right. Use them both as you like, and then as our knowledge and nuancing ability of the theme increases, we'll be able to use the language better in order to tell other people of what's going on. But it's mostly, the distinction is mostly something you use in order to teach some particularity.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
So but we're going to look into some pictures, but before that I want to talk a little more about the diagonals. Diagonally, it's a word. Diagonals is a word that riders often hear when it comes to like the posting trot. You sit on the right diagonal. That's what most riders have heard, and they have never thought about what a diagonal is and why it's important. But when you're sitting on the right diagonal, you're sitting down when the inside hind leg is touching the ground. And that what you learn to look for is that the outside shoulder is moving. So that is a diagonal. And why are those...
From inside hind to outside fore is the diagonal.
And also you're often talking about the inside leg to the outside rein. That is also diagonal. That is the reason why we're walking inside leg to outside rein is that we want to influence that diagonal. And it's much easier to influence one diagonal at a time instead of trying. Most riders know that it's easier to ride on a circle than to ride on a straight line. And that is because we're actually then just working with one of the diagonals. And to ride straight forwards, you need to work with both diagonals at the same time. So both diagonals need to be loose without tension, and both diagonals need to push out from the hind leg and to let it through the shoulder on the diagonal side. And that is difficult, because if the horse is sort of like depending on the left shoulder as the
main carrying,
as the sort of pillar of the existence, then everything is sort of not straight, and that is sort of the often the reason for all this crookedness in the horses. But we can sort of work with that to get the horse loose by working and understanding what the diagonals of the horses are.
Yep.
And I've been studying some of the fascia in the horses, and I'm not an expert on those, but I've been looking at the anatomy of especially the fascia, and it seems that there are structures in the horse's back that look actually like a bed sheet that is sort of draped over the horse fastened in. Each corner is fastened in a leg, so it's sort of stretched like that. So if you pull the sheet like this, and it stretches a bit like that, and then this one becomes shorter. So if you stretch there, something happens with the movement, because if you a human being, if we walk, it's very difficult to walk with like moving the right leg and the right arm at the same time. You really need to concentrate. Like this.
Yeah, it's much easier to swing opposite.
Yeah, you're swinging like naturally.
Yeah.
And the same thing, we want that to happen with the horses, especially when they trot.
Of course.
And that's the reason why the horse, the trot is really good for like developing and sort of like checking out if the diagonals are working, and if this diagonal is stronger than the other and stuff like that. So we're going to look at that, and we're going to see how I'm working with that in the lunge.
Yep.
And later on we'll see how we're working on that when we're riding.
Yeah, but not today.
Not today.
Yep.
No.
All right.
Shall we start with one picture then?
Yeah, maybe we should. I think we should. I think we've shown a lot about beat, rhythm, and diagonality. It should be enough to.
Yeah. So I think we should ask for the picture of Parsifal when he is parallel.
Parsifal parallel.
Yeah, this is Parsifal. He's a young horse. We're quite young. He's not been ridden yet because he has had some troubles lots of troubles in his teeth and also in his back. So he's been lunged a lot. And here we've put some help lines, really yellow ones, through the line of the middle of the, what's it called, the arm, or the front, what's it called, the forearm.
The forearm?
Yeah, in English. That is the part of the leg.
The front leg?
The part of the front leg that goes from the elbow to the knee. You can see the part of the front leg that is under the yellow line.
Yep.
And also the hind cannon. That is a part of the hind leg that goes like that has this yellow line across
from the hock down.
From the hock down. Those parts of the horse should always be parallel through the whole step in trot. If they are parallel, it's very likely that the horse's diagonals are working properly. And the good thing about that is that these structures in the horse is sort of, those structures are like mechanically want to guide the horse into moving in a swinging rhythm.
So say if we strip off all muscle of the horse, you could still make the legs swing diagonally by pulling one leg.
Yeah, but you know, the fascia is sort of connected to the muscles.
Yeah, but so, there is also.
Yeah. Yeah, there are structures there.
There are
so if you take away the ligaments
that will do the same thing.
Yeah, because this is complex.
Yeah. Obviously, but the idea is that even without muscle, you
even
could do that, or even especially if you could have taken out the muscle without taking out the fascia.
Yeah, theoretically, sort of but I understand what you mean, because it's not if you try to make the horse use its muscles only to do this, you can train the horse to do whatever, but the horse needs also to sort of rely upon these mechanical structures that are sort of making this pendulum thingy in his body, so that he can relax and just let this swinging. You know, if you're jogging and you're feeling this feeling that your whole body is sort of moving, that is also the reason why some people have a rhythm. Some drummers, they know exactly when.
Some drummers, they use their muscles to.
No, they are also feeling. Yeah, but they're also feeling the rhythm. That's why, if you can feel the rhythm in your body, you know the rhythm.
Yeah.
Of that movement. Yeah. And the horses do that as well.
So, I know that sometimes when you teach people to run faster over any distance, quite often you'll ask them to pump their arms harder.
Yeah.
And that will make them run faster.
And that is really hard.
It's really difficult.
Yeah.
But it will make you run faster because you increase the rhythm and pace of your upper body. That will not force but encourage the lower body to move faster as well. And which is sort of the same idea that we're looking at here.
Yeah, and that's interesting because you know that the intestines of the horse, the whole contents of the belly will in canter or in gallop will move back and forwards, like
slosh
back and forwards in the rhythm of the gait, and then it's impossible for the horse to breathe in any other rhythm than that.
Yeah,
and so that is also rhythm. You know, these physical things that are sort of helping the horse to feel the rhythms is important to understand, and not force that.
So if I understand this correctly, then you can of course make the horse trot in any way you like.
Of course, yeah.
And you can call it whatever you like, but there will inside the horse be something that is that shows what is the correct rhythm for that horse at that pace.
That relaxed sort of rhythm that we are looking for here, and yeah.
You don't always have to keep at that relaxed rhythm,
because
of course, but having the ability to find that relaxed rhythm is important.
And you build on that when you're working. You want to build the good gaits, the good swinging, cadenced gaits that really get the good points in dressage competitions. You know.
Yeah.
And you can, when the horse gets cramped up. It's sort of relying on its muscle, its sort of stiff muscles, and then the horse sort of gets shorter than that structure, so it can't feel that structure.
So if there is stiffness somewhere, it doesn't have to be the whole horse.
No,
but just one stiffness. Let's say like I have a stiffness here behind one of my shoulder blades.
Yeah,
it makes it extremely difficult for me to jog. I do not look like a jogger when I jog.
No, you look like the Terminator.
Thank you for that. I think what she's trying to say is that I look a little bit like Arnold Schwarzenegger, and I'll take that as a positive today. Anyway, so any little muscles can also screw up this rhythm.
Yeah.
Okay, so if they're too tight or too weak.
Yeah.
Okay, so it can be any sort of thing that leads to it. But somehow we will have to find this relaxed rhythm and allow it through the body.
Yeah.
And you said something about the horse being bent makes it easier. This horse is moving on a circle from what I understand from the picture.
Yeah.
What more can you say about this picture that shows what's right or wrong or good or bad or?
Yeah, that's a good question. I almost forgot because it's important. Most riders know about these things, that the nose should be in front of the vertical of the front of the face of the horse.
Any in front as much as possible?
No,
like a pig?
no. Oh, yeah, a little in front.
Just slightly in front.
Slightly in front, and the point behind the ears.
I have to. The point behind. There's a lot of points behind the ears, as far as I can see. Where?
Yeah,
where do you want to?
Where the
be precise.
Yeah, right behind the ears. You know where the.
How far behind would you say?
Where the cavesson is placed.
All right.
And you can see. Yeah.
So So just 2 centimeters or whatever it is behind the ears, something like that, right? Yeah, but it's important.
Yeah, it's not that accurate, but you have some things to look for.
Right.
And also, when you're working with finding the rhythm, the horse must be allowed to stretch his nose further down so that the point behind the ears, are not the highest point.
Oh, so
because it needs to stretch its back.
So the withers might be the highest, or some point along the neck, or it can be many different things.
But the nose, the muscle, the point of the nose and the point of the muscles should not be behind the vertical at any point. If it's behind, it's difficult to find the diagonals.
But that doesn't mean that your horse won't be behind.
No.
And even if it's behind for a whole lesson, you might still be trying to.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So don't freak out if.
No. I hate that absolute people.
I think like that. So we have to make sure that might be other people thinking like me.
It's important to not be absolute and like hysterical with these things. And also you can see that he's actually lowering his pelvis is slanted to the back, and his tail is like horizontal, like 10 centimeters or something, the horizontal, and then it falls relaxed down.
Yeah.
And the tail should be carried relaxed like this.
So a bit out and then relaxed.
Yes.
That shows that the whole top line is engaged.
Yeah.
So if the nose is in front of the vertical and the tail is hanging out that little bit, like we see in this picture, it shows that the whole top line is somewhat connected and somewhat engaged.
Yeah.
It doesn't say that this is perfect. That's not what we're trying to say. But there is something here that looks fairly good.
Yeah.
The parallelity, as we can see, is good. And the horse is active throughout its whole top line. All right.
And also there's something else that I like to see. And that is that the diagonal pairs of legs are looking like the hooves are looking the same. Can you see that the hooves of the legs with the yellow lines, they're sort of carried in the same way. They're the same distance from the ground. And also the ones that are not yellow, you can see that they're in the same sort of moment exactly before lifting off or kicking off. Yeah. And as usually I'd like to see that the hind leg is kicking off a little more than the front leg.
It isn't here though.
No, because this is a young horse, and we know that he's got trouble in his body. Yeah. So this is not ideal, but this is. So what I think that
the parallelity here is on the diagonal that isn't marked out. It isn't perfect, is it?
It's not that bad.
It's not far away, but
because you need to look at the top part of the leg. Yeah. But it's not perfect. Nothing is perfect.
No, I think he brings his front leg slightly too far underneath himself.
Yeah, he does.
But that's like you say, he's not pushing off hard enough with the hind, so that means he has to carry a little bit more on the front. So that's fine.
Yeah. So let's have a look at another picture. That is Dalton. Can we have? This is Dalton. Oh, this is my horse. So
those lines will meet.
Yeah, so we can see that these lines are not parallel.
No.
And then if we know that he's got stiff parts in his neck and also in his lumbar back. You can see that his lumbar back is a little down, and that his pelvis is more horizontal, and that his tail is a little like going up a little, and he's a little cramped in his neck.
It's difficult to see in the hindquarters. I think he's not as defined in his musculature as the other horse. Is that?
He's a little fat, you mean?
I didn't say that. But the angles in the hindquarters compared to the other horse is, I think, I'm not so sure that the pelvis is a different angle. I'm not 100% sure about that.
No.
But he's definitely straighter in his knees. And that is a difference.
So the parallelity is not the same.
No, and he's not carrying his tail as well.
No.
And his nose is not in front of the vertical. So there's many things here that show something about this parallelity. Can you
and he's on his front.
Expand on that,
He's on his
please?
forehand, isn't he? He's on his forehand.
Oh, definitely on the forehead.
Yeah. So he's not carrying himself like in any balance. And the reason why I use this picture is that I don't want to use pictures of other people and showing what they do wrong. I want to use my own horse to say what is wrong. But you can go to the internet and find other pictures of horses that and do that.
Look at parallelity.
Look at parallelity and
with
see
the lines that we are think yourself these lines that we're showing and see if you can find other things that have a connection.
Because usually you can see horses that are much worse than this, and where they're lifting their front legs really high, and the hindquarters are not that following through. In the same. So I'm not going to show you more about Dalton. Let's look at Parsifal when he's tight in the front.
Oh yeah. So this is the same horse that we saw in the first picture, right?
The good picture.
Yeah.
Yeah, and this is another moment. It's exactly the same lesson. Yeah. But he is more on the front, on the forehand here. But here the parallel lines are in the opposite way, because he is stiff. One of his problems is that he's a little stiff in his shoulders.
Yes.
So he's landing.
Can we? Yeah. Can we see the Dalton picture again, please? All right. So in this picture, you can see that the horse is opening up between the front legs very much, but not so much in the hind legs.
Yes.
Can we see the Parsifal one again? And here it's the opposite. The front legs don't open up properly, but the hind legs open up pretty good.
So you can see here that you have been in the marching band, you know? Yes. And you know that if you're marching, you have to march in beat with each other.
Yes.
And these horses show that the front legs and the hind legs are not marching in the same beat.
No.
So that is a very important thing about rhythm. The front and the hind part of the horses, they need to be in rhythm with each other. So here his front leg is landing before it should.
Yes. The front leg is already carrying weight.
Yeah. And the hind leg is sort of trying to find something to...
It's touching down, but it's not...
Yeah.
Can't carry weight there.
So it's a very good exercise when you want to learn something about this.
Yeah.
Take pictures or take a video and stop it. And see what is happening. And then you train your eyes to see what is happening, and then you can help the horse to find a better rhythm.
Yeah.
And then the horse will relax.
Yeah. So you can also see here that he's sort of tighter in the neck as well, in the front.
Yeah.
Behind the vertical a little bit, and
Good point.
That point behind his ears that you were talking about is
lower
compared to a fair bit of the neck there. Right.
And he's got the same side reins as he did.
Yeah.
But then he's lower in the withers, like under the saddle is like cramped a little, and he's lower. Yeah. And that is the reason why he's falling on his front legs. And then he's curling up in his neck, and he's also tensing up in his under neck, the muscles on the underside of his his neck,
throat. Yeah.
and then that is sort of an antagonist to the top line. So that if the underneck is tense, he can't engage the top line.
Yeah.
And that is sort of the whole point of getting the horse to become loose.
Yeah.
Because then if he's loose in his sort of underline, he's able to engage his top line.
Yeah, so loose here doesn't mean completely flaccid.
No, loose is loose. Yeah, you need to be relaxed in sort of
the
the
coordination between the different muscle groups
Yeah.
isn't good here compared to the other one.
No, because then on the other one, the energy was able to flow forwards from the hind legs over the back and to the bits.
Yeah.
And it's not like there in that here.
Yeah.
But now you can see, and when we we were looking at the like sort of good picture of Parsifal. Many people will say that but it's not collected.
No.
So is it the same when you collect the horse? You know.
Yeah.
And if we can see the picture of Ares in the piaffe, and here you can see that the horse is piaffing.
And the lines are still
And the lines are parallel. That is the reason why it's important to look at the what's it called, the forearm and the hind cannon. This should be the parallel through the whole step in all kinds of, even in extended trot. And if you manage to do that in extended trot, it will not be a problem to go to the transition between extended trot and the working trot.
Yeah, because it's just a part of the continuum that you can.
Yes.
You can
so you have the same rhythm.
Seamlessly move through that.
Yeah.
It should be the same rhythm from piaffe to the extended trot, I read.
Yeah, it should be. So
that sounds hard.
Yeah.
No, that sounds soft actually.
True.
Waha.
So now we have talked about trot all the time.
Yeah.
And that is because trot is very easy. It's 2 beat. It's easy to see that the hind legs and the front legs are
parallel and all that.
Yeah, all of these things.
Okay.
But there is also the diagonals. There is same. If the diagonals work in walk, you get the 4 beat. If the diagonals doesn't work correctly, you get the sort of the pace like walk.
Yeah.
And if it
so
if
you get the da
yes.
instead of the do.
Yeah.
Do.
1 2 3 4 1 2.
Yeah. So you get 1 2 3 4. 1,
Yes.
2, 3,
Yeah.
4. Yeah.
And in canter you get the 4 beat canter.
Yeah.
So if we can see the Parsifal in the canter, here is Parsifal when he's just landed. You know the
inside hind, outside front diagonal.
Yeah, because first he will land on the hind leg that is now the one to the sort of the last one, the one to the left,
the rear
one. Yeah, and then he lands with a diagonal, the hind quarters that is closest to us, and then the front leg that is the off leg, the one that is on the other side.
Yeah, so the right hind, left front.
Yes, and those must, if the diagonals work, they will land at the same time. And then afterwards, the front leg, the right front leg will land. So you get 1 2 3. And then you get a pause when the horse is in the air. And then you get 1 2 3. And if you get the 4 beat, those 2 diagonal legs will not land at the same time.
Yep.
So that is the reason why the diagonals will be important in canter as well. And if you fix the diagonals, you will fix the 4 beat canter.
Fair.
Yeah.
Yep. So, video time?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if there is questions, just ask us in the comments. Now I'm gonna be excited. Yeah. Here is me on Parsifal. And now I start with testing if he will stretch his head down and forwards. And what I look for is that, yeah, now I'm finished with that.
What you look for is?
I'm looking for that he's stretching his head, he's able to stretch his head down, and that his nose is in front of the vertical.
How far down do you want him to be?
I want him to be able to touch the ground with his nose.
So a little bit of sand on the nose?
Yes.
Right.
And I don't want to train him to do that, because I want him, I use it as a test to see if the diagonals are working. And if I trick train him to do it, I lose the whole, it's not a test method any longer. So I'm doing it in before I train the horse and then afterwards, and see if it's become any better.
So you just check if he relaxes, does he stretch all the way down?
Yes. Is he able to do it?
As opposed to, if I show him that the point is to have his nose on the ground, because then he will do that despite not being relaxed.
Yes.
All right.
So if you see now, I've put on the side rein just on the inside.
All right.
And that is a no-no in many by many people, but I find it a very good way to explore the diagonal between the inside hind leg and the outside front leg. And then you can see that he is stiff in his shoulders, and if he walks like that, I'm forcing his outside shoulder to move a longer way than his inside shoulder, and then I'm asking him to move like stretch his outside shoulder, and you can see that his head goes a little up every time he moves his inside front leg, and that means that there is something that is stiff there.
Yeah.
And we could see on the still picture that he was sometimes not
Stiff
stretching
in the
his shoulders in a good way.
Yeah.
So I need to take some time here and let him just go there, and because when you're stretching, it's stiff in the beginning, and then after a while you get warm, and then you will be able to move in a better way. So I really need to take some time here. And many people say you shouldn't bend the horse. The point is to make it straight. Yeah, but I don't. If I'm crooked, I need to stretch, and I stretch like this, and I don't walk like this down the road, even though I do this in the gym. So I'm doing this in the gym, but I won't do that when I'm in the dressage arena, or I'm just doing this to help the horse to find its diagonals. So every time you can see now and now, he's moving his hind, then the hind left, and then he's moving his front right there and there. And then I'm always looking for that diagonal and to see how he moves. And then after a while you will see that he stretches his nose down and he lifts his back. This might take some time, so we didn't have a lot of time to show this here, but this is not very hard for the horse, so he can do this for a long time and then just stretch and relax after a while.
Yeah, it still looks a little bit strained when he moves the right front, outside front forward.
Yeah. And that's because that shoulder needs to move.
So you get the feeling that rhythm isn't, or the beat isn't clear. No. The rhythm is even a little bit not perfect.
The way that you sort of influence the rhythm is to put the horse in a situation where he can feel that he is stiff.
Yeah.
And you sort of provoke that, you sort of dip into the pain a little, so that the horse sort of finds out that there is something stiff here, and we can work with that stiffness so that it becomes more loose.
I find that quite often, if the horse is really stiff, he's very skittish.
Yeah, true.
It's the same as if you put a stiff rider on a horse, or a rider that tends to tense up, the horse becomes much more skittish and jumpy.
Yep. And so they get more.
The feeling I have is that the horse feels like he's stuck in his own body, sort of.
And it's often painful as well, and they don't. It's impossible to get relaxed if you got some place in your body that is stiff.
Yeah.
So you can see now that it's a little the movie seems a little slow.
Looks like it's a little bit of slow motion here, unless my eyes deceive me.
He's training passage.
Is he now?
No.
So
now I'm asking him to do the canter, and he's striking off in the wrong canter.
Yeah.
And that is because he doesn't want to bend his inside hind leg.
Yeah, especially the left inside hind. That's
so he is, and I don't want to punish him for that, because I want him to be able to do the counter canter when he's ready for that, and I want him also to feel how it feels when he's doing the canter. Is that balanced? You know, find his own balance.
Yeah.
But what I'm doing here is that I'm asking him to feel how it is to sort of bend his hind leg, the inside hind. And now he's so eager. He says, I know, Mom. So he's doing it before he has sort of
also
felt.
So you showed him how to bend the inside hind.
Yeah.
But at the same time, he inserted more energy from the hindquarters. And energy and stiffness, they are sort of the same idea.
In the beginning, at least.
If you increase the energy that much, you will dip into the too much stiffness again.
Yes. So when you need to find the energy that is not becoming tense. So now,
there we go.
Now he got the energy through the diagonal.
Yeah.
And then it was easier for him.
Yeah, and you can see there's a bit of a bend in the inside hind now.
Yeah.
Not bad.
So I just showed him, you can do this, and if you do that, you find your diagonal, and then you can see the diagonal between the inside hind and the outside foreleg.
Yeah, it's not quite pure, I think.
No. And
it changes.
Yeah,
interesting.
I like to do this because it helps the horse to find its own balance. He's struggling now. It's just like a line dancer, or trying to balance on a line. You need to do it. I can't tell you how to do it. You need to practice, and I want the horse to practice these things to find.
But I can't want to practice.
I know, but I like the horse to be able to do this before you sit up. Because then the horse has its own balance, and he knows his own rhythm. Yep. So you don't need to try to force the horse to find any rhythm, because he knows his rhythm.
Yeah.
And now I'm changing.
But he can't know the rhythm unless he's smooth and relaxed through the musculature.
True.
And the musculature it's not just. We just aren't perfect, are we? No. None of us beings are perfect.
No.
Therefore, there are stiffnesses and difficulties in our musculature. And what we aim to do is to improve those stiffnesses, make the horse more smooth in the musculature, make him stronger where he's weak, make him more flexible where he's stiff, make him more relaxed where he's tense. And make him more energetic where he's lazy. True. Something like that. Yeah. That's what we're aiming to do, isn't it?
And all of these things we have to do, not just this. This is just me trying to sort of make it simple to see this tiny little part of the whole system. It's complex.
Yeah. But it's interesting how it doesn't look like you do a whole lot where you kind of, you've got your lunge whip there, but I haven't seen you smash it around a lot. And the contact with the cavesson isn't all that much as far as I can see, and even the inside rein that you have put on him seems to not be tight all the time.
No, basically,
as far as
the
I
point
can see.
is just to make him being positioned to the inside, or not.
Not to the outside.
Yes, he's not allowed to position himself to the outside.
He can still position himself to the outside, but that means he has to be very short to do that.
Yeah, so
and that's harder for him. So you sort of just ask him to. Or
so now he's stretching the whole diagonal from the inside high leg over the back to the outside shoulder and to the outside rein that is not yet there.
Yeah.
And the point is that you want him to stretch. The training scales is like, first you got rhythm, then you got looseness, and then you get contact. And that is very, very well made. Because if you do this with the rhythm and looseness before you try the horse to take the contact to the outside rein, the horse will stretch to the outside rein instead of you pulling the horse back.
Oh, so the horse goes to the contact.
Yes, but if you try to force the horse to the contact, the horse will get cramped like this, and then you will lose this diagonal thingy that I'm talking about.
Yeah.
You won't feel the rhythm. So then you can ask the horse to move in any rhythm that you want it to, but then you won't get this thing that I'm talking about.
Yeah.
So what I'm not quite sure if I do it like, I think I'm now putting him on both side reins.
All right.
So he will get an outside rein as well. And then what I'm doing that I'm never, the first time I'm putting on the outside rein, I'm not tightening it up very much.
No.
I'm making sure that the horse has freedom to stretch to that.
Still stretch to the contact. Yeah. All right.
So but because if you put on that outside rein too early, the horse will just curl his neck and be behind the vertical.
Yeah, but what I can make, I've been able to make my horse come to the vertical even if I have made it so that he's not moving diagonally.
Yeah. You're very good at putting the horse on his hindquarters.
Yes.
Yeah, so then you're sort of raising the whole horse up.
But the diagonals are still have been shite, if I might say so. I'm not saying now.
Yeah,
I'm saying this is a thing that I've been doing.
Yeah.
So we need to not be fooled by this. It's very easy to make the horse be in the vertical, but still be behind the bit.
Yes, true. The contact is something that is really, really...
So behind the bit and behind the vertical isn't the same thing then?
That is very important, yeah.
Right,
no,
cool.
Not the same thing.
So from what I can see, the outside rein there is still mostly loose, but so is the inside rein.
Because it's not stretching that much yet.
Yeah, and I can see the cavesson is the contact to the cavesson is a little bit more on now than it was.
Yeah, that's because
before,
I'm just using the rope.
Yeah.
Is connected to the cavesson.
Yeah,
the other ones are to the bit.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
so
he tried to stretch, and I saw his back just pop up, and he went, "No, stop!"
Exactly.
That's interesting.
Yeah, that is exactly what happened, and that is important because then you can see that the canter is actually engaging his back a lot, and so much that he had to use his hind legs to lift, and he wasn't used to that. So he was like, "Oh!" and then he just fell down to trot because it was, and you often feel that when you're riding, and then you feel that now it's starting to get a good canter, and then the horse just falls down to an empty hole and down into trot again, and that is because he was trying to carry over his back, but he was not strong enough in his hindquarters and his back, and then he just
didn't have the energy.
Yeah,
that's also possible.
And often you can just do this with the whip. Yeah. And say, remind him, hey, you must remember you have hind legs.
You remember?
Yeah, have you? Yeah, so you can use the whip to remind the horse that it's got two other legs as well, and then the horse will be happy. And now I've just shortened the rein, so now the outside rein is working as an outside rein, but now he got the wrong canter.
Yeah, so now it's actually working as an inside rein.
Yeah, that is true, and then many people forget that when the horse is positioned to the outside,
that becomes
the inside rein. But now I had to, because he has this trouble that he often strikes up.
This is all right.
This is all right. Now you can see that he collects, or not collects, but he is a little more collected because
he carries much more behind now. That's quite clear to see.
And because the outside rein is now working as an outside rein.
And the outside rein, as we all know, collects the horse.
Yes.
If
it's over the back.
Behind the bit.
And if it's over the back, and over the back means that it's both rhythmic and loose.
And diagonal.
And diagonal.
Right.
And you can see those things. And then, because I had to start like that. If you guys who are watching and you want to later on take a look at the picture of Dalton, because he has got the outside rein as well, but he's behind the vertical because it's not over the back. He's collapsed in his lumbar back.
Oh,
and
his transitions look a little bit horrid still.
Yeah, but he's young.
I'm just. It's important to point it out.
Yeah.
So here's the thing that I think I can see with this horse. He's moving fairly well through the lumbar spine, but it looks like when he's moving there, it looks like the spine around where the girth is put isn't moving that much.
True. I guess that might be true.
Yeah. But
let's see now. Let's see when. Oh, now he's stopping.
Yeah, but you can see it even as he's stopping. You can see his hindquarters sort of bob up a little bit, while the front part of his back stays relatively still. So he's either stiff on top, just behind the withers, or he's unengaged in that area.
Yeah.
So even when he's collecting. Even when he's bringing his hindquarters under, he doesn't truly lift his front up.
That's true.
So his hindquarters, as we can see, are fairly well developed.
Yeah.
For a young horse not carrying a rider, this isn't bad at all.
And
but there's a deficiency around the shoulders, and as we saw in one of the pictures, his shoulders didn't want
coming
to step
out of the
through.
same hole.
Yeah, so they were a bit stiff, and if the shoulders are stiff, the musculature doesn't develop properly.
You can see it here as well. But he's actually stretching. He's trying to stretch,
Yep.
and he. Then we know that it's not that much problems in his neck any longer.
No, the neck is all right.
Yeah.
He's trying to stretch that part of the back that he seems to be lacking in. So we are trying to make all the pieces fit together, and the one in the middle seems to be the weak spot at the moment.
And so you could use this as sort of a diagnosis tool.
Yes.
To see where is the stiffness in the horse.
All good exercises are at the same time a good diagnostic tool and a good training exercise.
Yes.
Not all. There are developers and there are tests of strength, but.
Yeah, but you can see that I was showing a little that in his lateral movements.
Yeah.
That is really helpful for that horse.
Yeah. There seems to be questions. Shoot.
We have a question coming from Hege Høiby, and she's asking what's the best way to fix the diagonal of the canter, in canter or trot or even the walk.
Yes. Yes, Hege, all of those sound to be a really good idea.
The best way to fix the diagonals is to make sure that the horse is not stiff anyway in any places in his body, and to work on circles and to work laterally, like side movements, and to just work in all the gaits.
Just working on it. It's difficult.
Yeah, but it's and let the back move.
But you need to make sure then that the horse can stretch his nose all the way down to the ground with the nose just in front of the vertical at the walk, at the trot, and at the canter.
Yes.
And if the horse can do those things, then the diagonals should be working. Is that right? And
if the horse can't do that, it's most often it's the horse is too stiff in his neck, someplace in its neck or his shoulders.
Yeah.
I always
the withers. Just
but it's
like
difficult to do anything with the withers in the beginning.
So make the shoulders move.
Most horses, like 90% of the horses that I see, are too stiff in the neck and the shoulders. And you could start with the neck and start positioning the horse, because most horses are not able to do this.
So only move the head without the neck.
Try to do this with a horse and see what's happening. If it's stiff here, it's impossible for the horse to use his top line properly. It's easy.
Right. That sounded easy. It probably isn't, but it sounds easy. Cool. Any more questions? No?
I have two if I'm allowed.
Yeah,
you
of course
are
you
allowed
are.
questions.
I don't have a mic. Is that okay, Eva?
You can have mine.
You're on the mic with Mike.
Well, the first one is just to sort of sum up that the rhythm isn't an absolute thing. So the rhythm of my horse will be different from the rhythm of your horse. And the point is to find that horse's rhythm and then just build from that, right?
Yes.
Mm.
And then we have a question from Jason, who is fairly new to horses but wants to learn. And he's asking that, will finding the rhythm and the diagonality help with the stiffness?
Yes.
So if you don't know how to fix the stiffness, just search for the diagonals.
Yes. Very good. Somebody has understood some of the something of what we've been saying at least. That's very good. That is
it will
completely correct. Both it will work both ways to some extent.
If
you know something about working out stiffnesses, that'll help the diagonality.
Mm-hmm.
And if you know something about rhythm, or you can feel the rhythm, working towards the rhythm will help the stiffness.
Mm. So sometimes in the beginning it's difficult to get the horse to find the rhythm, and then that's the reason why I'm starting with the shoulders and the neck, because that is the easy part to influence, and also often it's the part that is stiffest, because it's more stiff than the other parts of the horse, because the horses are often on the forehand, and then the forehand is carrying much more, so it's like cramped up because it's working too much. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I have a question. Did you have more questions?
No.
Those were the two? Yep. I have a question. Yeah, there's a question in there, I think, maybe. Maybe I can answer it while I talk, but we'll see.
Come on.
This is a weird one. Just so if everybody who's left, that's all right. And if you guys want to leave now, that might be all right too. The idea is that we used to say about a horse that I had, that he was like one of those modern fighter jets that are not aerodynamically stable.
Mm-hmm.
So if I make a paper plane and I throw it, it's more or less stable and it'll find its way through the air and sail pretty well.
Yeah.
But those modern fighter planes, they're not like that. If you throw that, it just goes and then.
They need a computer to.
So
be
you
able
need a
to
supercomputer almost to help to
it's
tell what this means.
Yeah, but then that plane will be able to do
Quicker maneuvers.
this. Yeah.
But it requires so many aids.
And you used to be that computer.
Yes,
but
I used to have to do this leg has to do, and everything had to be perfectly on, and it was extremely hard to keep on top of all that.
Mm-hmm.
But at the moment, I just have to turn around.
Mm-hmm. And then the horse is stable. It's just like this old-fashioned, like with
Biplane.
Yeah. And there is you can just turn off the engine and the
and
plane
it'll just sail.
Yeah,
beautifully.
Yeah. The goal is of finding the rhythm is to find that stability in the organism of the horse, and then you could just be two entities like balancing on top of each other, and then you could just turn around and the horse will turn.
Yeah. Another idea about that, the feeling of that diagonality when you have it proper, it feels like if you're rowing a boat that has a good keel, that like the boat has a good keel like this sticking into the water, then the boat will go so straight and smooth, it's beautiful. But if the boat is like this, like something you bought in a toy store, and you've spent your whole afternoon trying to fill that thing with air with your own lungs, and then you try to row it, it'll do this sort of thing and never ever go in a straight line anywhere. And that's when you find the diagonal, you can feel the stability of the horse completely changing.
And also, if the horse usually like if they step on their own feet and if they're sort of and if they stumble, if they do things like that, and if they are opening their mouths and sticking their tongues out or doing this or all sorts things like that, it's because they are not a diagonal. Because if they're not
or undiagonal.
if they're not in in rhythm with each other. You know, the front legs will be a little late, and then the hind legs will
step on it.
Yeah. So, but if the diagonals are okay, when this hoof comes, the other one will be out of the way.
Moved away. Yep.
So it's like a magic. A horse that always steps on his shoes will suddenly never do it again because you find the rhythm.
Yeah. Cool. There was some more questionings.
Yeah, we have a follow-up from Hege. I think it's connected to what you said earlier. And she asks, the parts that are the most stiff, are those the parts that are easiest to influence or fix? Or
it depends on
the rider.
Yeah, and also depends on where the stiffness is, because some places are more difficult to get to. It's easier to address the neck because it's long, and it's easy to do the bending, the flexion.
And it will often bend very easily, while the back doesn't try to bend even.
Yeah.
So the stiffness will be very difficult to address sometimes because of the softness in the other areas.
Yeah. So if the back, it should also be able to bend, and if it's especially right under the saddle, the horse is often like not able to bend. And then you have to start bending, and Soini says something good. He has this term of bending of the first degree and bending of the second degree. And the bending of the first degree is like trying to bend as well as you can, just like I did with Parsifal in the movie. He was like bending
and with the rein or cavesson or
something. And then the shoulder might do whatever it needs to do and
drop off.
And the horse bends much more in the neck than it does in the back. But after a while, when the horse relaxes, then you could see that in the video a little. Then suddenly it doesn't look like crooked in the neck anymore. The neck sort of is straightening a little more out. That is because the back is starting to bend a little more.
Yeah. But I think I have a concrete idea that might help the question. The question is, what is hardest to reach? That will, of course...
She just commented that she was mostly thinking of in the neck. So...
I'm using like the video that we made, the stream that we made earlier with you, Thea, and me, when we were untangling the neck of the horse. That is really, really efficient when it comes to stiff necks.
Yes.
It is helping the horses a lot. I often use it when I'm instructing, and it's always helping. And the riders say, what happened? Now the horse is much easier to ride, because these sort of muscle knots in the muscles, like you could feel that these hard lumps. You could walk beside the horse and just manipulate these lumps a little, and the horse will stretch.
Yeah. Cool.
I would recommend doing that.
Yep. If you have so to loosen up muscles, you do that. And if you find that the horse is loose enough, then you can try to collect the horse and ask for energy.
True.
And then the horse will activate all the musculature, and that will often allow the stiff muscles to relax. When the lazy muscles become active, the stiffest and weakest muscles often are able to relax, and therefore you get more out of.
Yeah, and good point. Sometimes you have to move a little up and down in the training scales, because with Dalton, that you can see that he was he's tense and like really he's lowering his lumbar back. And then that is a very difficult problem to fix with just making him stretch. You need to ask him to put his hind legs under him. Because then he will stretch his lumbar back and put his pelvis under him.
Find the same idea with people. If I want to train technique in my lifting, in my weight lifting, I will lower the weight or even take the weight away to find the spot I want to be in. While I know that you, for instance, you need to have a bit of weight to find the correct. But that's just it's a question of how much have you trained in this. But then again, when I found it's that I found the new muscle, then I will pour the weight back on and see how much I can lift in that new thing. And that is also a thing that you can do with the horses when they have started to be able to lift themselves a little bit and sit down a little bit. See how much they can do. Don't make
we need to talk more about that.
But that is probably for another stream. This is diagonality and rhythm.
Yeah, but the problem with these things is that everything is connected to everything, so we can't cover everything in. But this is actually a very important topic that we need to cover.
Yeah.
More questions?
No, just Hege needs to come here and have this discussion.
Absolutely.
I think.
Hege needs to have her discussion much more than she has had opportunity to lately. All right. Is there no one else? No? Right. We're going to round this off a little bit. For all you guys out there, we are booking our clinics for 2022 now. Not running full any...
No, there's still
a lot available for 2022. Yeah. This 2021 is full already, right?
Yeah.
So 2022, we are booking those clinics now. So if you want one of those, please give us a call. Like us on Facebook if you want to see the next stream, which will be live in 2 weeks. We have the footage already, and we are going to be dissecting me, I guess, or even one of our regulars that one of our hang-arounds here. We'll see.
And me as well.
And you too.
Me and Dalton.
We have lots and lots of riders. We don't even know which ones we're going to use yet, so that's.
But it's going to be about rhythm.
That's a secret. Is that rhythm too?
Yeah.
All of it is rhythm. You haven't occupied all of it, have you?
Yes.
Right, great. So it's going to be rhythm again, because it's a very complex and deep theme.
Yes, as we said, it's sort of connected to all kinds of different topics.
Yeah, and now we're also gonna put someone on top of the horse, which will make a bit of a difference. Right. So like us on Facebook so that you will get a notification when the next stream is on.
And don't be afraid to ask. It's not dangerous. Ask us questions in the comments.
Share suggestions, ask questions, be weird, dumb, smart, whatever you feel like that day. Ask anything. We'll be happy with it. For sure. I think that's all I have to say, really. You have any afterburners?
I want to say good night.
You want to say good night? Well, thanks for watching, guys, and have a really good night.